The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alex. I'm with VidSwap.com. So go ahead and give me a little shout out here. Let me know in the chat window that everybody can hear me, that everything is good to go. You can see my window. You can see my mouse moving around. Again, just give me a little shout out there. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So what I am doing today and the rest of the week, different than I've done in the past, is I am kind of combining a lot of the trainings that we've done in past years, just because sometimes it's difficult to do so many different types of sessions. So I'm going to try to cover as much stuff as I can in this session. So some of you soccer coaches might see some volleyball stuff. Some of you volleyball coaches might see some soccer stuff, hockey coaches, etc. So there might be kind of a combination of a bunch of different things. But the main thing is that most everything is the same for everybody. It's just when we get into the data of what's actually tagged, that's where it's really different. And then maybe a little bit different in how a coach might actually use it. Um, so but just so be aware of that. Everybody just be aware that this is kind of a combination of a bunch of different things here. And then when we get to a point, I want people to ask questions, and we'll try to cover as many different things as possible. And I am doing one every day here at the same time till Friday. So, the next one tomorrow might be a little bit different. There might be other things we cover, that another tangent that we go down that we didn't hit today. And then all of these are being recorded. So when you go to the help area here, help.vidswap.com, and you go to the training area, this is where you can find all of these previous recordings here. So if you want to get started on any of the last year's stuff, you can always go into here and take a look at any of the sport-specific ones we did in previous years. So those are recorded. Those are here that you can go look at. For the most part, it's not hugely different from last year. There's a bunch of little things that we've done, and there's always new features and things that we add to it. And there's a couple of major features we've obviously added with our live video and replay. But as a whole, the base components of how you're logging in, accessing stuff, playing video, doing all that, that's all always the same. It's always been the same. It hasn't really changed. And so you can always go into here. So for like if there's any conference specific people on here, like I think I might have saw I think I saw Brandon, you're on here from the Heartland, I believe. There might be a few others here. So some of this stuff may be relevant stuff, some of it may not be. But there is the conference specific previous recordings we've done here, and then again all the other sports specific ones, as well as just some simple exchange uploading ones too. But let's go in and get started here. I want to make sure we cover as much as we can here. And again, I want to keep the questions right now to a minimum. I want to try to cover everything that I can here. Some of it's going to be, again, you guys know some of the stuff, right? So some of it might be redundant for you. But let's just jump in here and get rolling. So again, my name is Alex. Most of you guys know who I am. I'm the VidSwap guy. That's what everybody calls me. Typically, when you guys need help, let's cover this first. When you guys need support, you need help, you're having trouble, what I'd like you to do, what I'd ask you guys to do, I love talking to you guys. What I'd like you to do, though, is when you need help, I'm not always able to give you guys help as fast as I'd like to. So when you're logged in, you can go to that help bubble on the bottom right there, and then you can ask a question, and you can either find the topic in the help area, or you can live chat with one of our amazing reps, Jason, Kent, one of those guys, and live chat with those. They'll help you out way faster than I can. Or if you'd like to call in, you can go to when you go to the main website and you go to the contact us page right here. This shows you the support phone number that you can call in. If you don't get somebody, you can leave a message that puts in a support ticket so that we can call you back right away, because maybe they were on the other line. And then we've got a support email that you can email right in. Again, it puts a support ticket in, and then also a link to the documentation that you can go in and maybe find the topic, find the video, or maybe take a look at the trainings that we've done too. Okay. If it is a sales related topic, you can certainly email me, email Chad, call in here, or email us on sales. But more than anything, if you have any kind of questions on pretty much anything, always best to go through that support line first. Then it goes in and at least gets to all of us, all my support guys, all my engineers, all of us in the back end, that if somebody can jump in and help as fast as possible, that allows us to be able to get you guys supported there. Okay, so let's just quickly do an introduction of the dashboard here, what we've got. Okay, so when I log in, I've got some apps here. Let's talk about what these are. So we've got our, and some of this, some of you might look, this might look different for some of you. For most of you on here, I'm assuming your college is using this for exchange for your conferences. And so you're going to see a schedules app here that some of you may not. If you're an individual school, like an individual high school, an individual college that's using us, and you're not using us for a conference, you're not going to see the schedule. But the schedule is that main area that most of you are familiar with. As a college, you're going to go in and you're going to scout each other, scout games across the conference in this area. Or if you're uploading, this is where you're going to upload those games, those matches into for your conference sharing. Okay, so this is that schedules is that public area that everybody can log in and access for all that video that's within your conference. Now, on that note, something I do want to bring up because it's been brought up by a lot of our users here. A lot of other sports around the country are starting to go more towards opening up the exchange to like across the country, and I just want to throw that out there so people start the conversation that we do have the ability to do this kind of things, especially in our like our Division I soccer. We do a majority of Division I soccer across the country, and for those of you who are Division I soccer coaches, that's a topic that gets brought up to us. That if if you guys want to open that up and have a whole Division I women's soccer that you can go in and look at any team, we can do that. You guys just have to give the okay to your conferences to say, yeah, that's something we want to do. For volleyball, we do a large percentage of the Division II volleyball, where maybe the Division II volleyball guys, you guys want to do that, where you open it up where you can scout anybody across the country. So just something to think about, something to bring up, that we have those capabilities to be able to start doing those kind of things. And those are things that our coaches, you guys are bringing that to us. You're telling us about it. So that's just feedback that we keep hearing. We've heard that the most over the last probably 3 or 4 months, especially from our soccer coaches, our Division I soccer coaches in particular. But anyways, okay. So you've got a private videos area. This is for those of you who you want to upload practice video, training videos. Maybe you've got non-conference games. So if you're a soccer coach where you're not sharing non-conference games, you're going to upload your videos, those games, those preseason games, those scrimmages, those non-conference games into your videos area, and then those aren't going to be shared with the conference. Okay, so like right now, I'm logged into the Minnesota Gopher soccer account, and they don't share non-conference games until they get to 2 games before conference play in the Big Ten. And so they upload, if I go into videos there, they upload all of their non-conference scrimmages here and here. So you can see they've got all of their spring games as well as their non-conference games, their preseason stuff against like SDSU here, and then they've got their 2 first games here of Utah and Utah State right in here. And these aren't shared to the Big Ten right now because that's not required. But for those of you who do share everything, like on the other side of the Big Ten, I believe the men's with us, they do share everything. Just like in the Pac-12 and many of our others, or volleyball, if you're a volleyball coach, most of you guys, you're sharing everything. You're uploading every scrimmage, non-conference game, everything there in that schedule. And then the only thing you might upload into here is maybe just practice video that you guys are going to use privately. Okay. And then when you're in here, the very top, you can click on a date here and actually change the year that you want to look at. It should default to the current year that you're in, but if for some reason it doesn't, that is a support question I've seen. If it doesn't default to the year that you're in, then you can actually go to your settings and change it. You can change that default year type. So you could actually go into settings here, and then you can change the season. Change the season to your current season, and then it will default everything to 2018, the current season that you're in, when you go in and you look at something. But again, you go back into there, and then you can change. Do I want to look at games, practice, others? So this is how you can look at the different areas or folders, so to speak, of how things are organized. Okay, we've also got a playbook area, and this playbook it's not something that is actually available to everybody. It is actually an add-on, but most of you have seen it. Maybe you've wondered what it is. Um, so I'll just take a quick second to tell you what it is and how it works. It's basically an online PowerPoint for sports. So when I go into here, I can actually I can go in and I can create presentations just like I do on PowerPoint or Keynote, and I can build slides, I can build formations, I can build and draw lines and do all those kind of really cool things, and I can do this all together. I can collaborate with my coaching staff. So it's a really cool way to be able to do things you're doing now in PowerPoint, but I can do them here. And I've got sports specific backgrounds and pages of my field or parts of my court that I want to be able to use to draw those things up. So you can make scatter reports in here, some really cool different types of scatter reports and things in here. And then again, you can collaborate with your staff, so you all don't have to do it from different places, and then you're sharing a file somewhere. So really cool tool there that a lot of people are starting to use. And again, it is an add-on. So for those of you who want it, you would have to let us know if you wanted that added on. All right, highlights. This is that great area for pulling plays out and making presentations. So when you go in and you're looking at a bunch of different goals, set pieces, a bunch of different attacks, or a bunch of shots, you can pull those out and then make a highlight. And that highlight then can be watched by your players. It can be shared to scouts, pro scouts, college scouts. It can be sent out to somebody. It can be downloaded out of the system. It can be sent to your SAD. It can be a whole bunch of other things can be done with it. Okay. Reviews. This is a feature that it's a really powerful feature that the ones who use it use the heck out of it. The ones who don't use it don't really know about it. And so I would encourage you to go in and start to get familiar with the reviews, because it's kind of like being a teacher and giving assignment to your students. So if I'm a soccer coach, maybe I want to give out an assignment to my back four for the week. Or maybe if I'm a volleyball coach, I want to give out an assignment to my hitters for the week. Or if I'm a hockey coach, I'm giving an assignment out to my goalies for the week, right? I'm just sending 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plays to a targeted set of either players or maybe an individual player, all right? And I'm engaging them on things I want just them to see and learn. And then inside of that review, I can actually have conversations. So we can have a back and forth dialogue and interact with those players back and forth, kind of like having a film session, but doing it remotely where we're not there at the same time in the same location. And then on that, you can actually see the statistics on how much your players are looking at it. So I can see if Johnny and Jill were looking at this review and actually learning something from it. So when I get back into practice the next day, I know if they're actually ready to go, or if we have to go over it again before we get out onto the field or on the court. Okay. And I can keep them accountable, and then I can measure that and then go back and then adjust it, right? And send them something new. Our stats area, this is a cumulative area. So all of these games and matches have stats that do get created from all of the tagging that we do. And you can look at those stats individually on those matches and games. But the stats area here, this is where you can do cumulatives. So I can look at statistical trends and charts over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games or an entire year. Okay, so you can see trends across multiple games, and again, charts. So I can look at charts, situations, shot charts, attack charts, where things are happening, for individual player, for a team, or for any situation I want to look at, again, across multiple games. Now, the roster here, this is one of the most important areas that for all of you, this gives access to your people, whether it's your assistant coaches, whether it's players, whether it's officials, referees, evaluators, scouts, all of those people. So for most of you, this is one of the first places that you need to get into if you haven't. But you get into here every year, go on your roster, and then you can adjust all of your you get in all of your players. So I've got my area for athletes here. So this is the Gopher roster here where I can put in all my players, and then this gives them their own login, so they can log in from any computer, iPad, iPhone, Android device. Okay, we've got a really great set of apps for all that, and know that our apps do allow you to download, so you can take video with you in the app when you're not connected to the internet. Okay, some of you may not have known that, but again, you can use the apps and download video into the apps and use when you're on a bus, on an airplane, and when you're in locations where you don't have internet. Okay, and then you can watch that video and interact with it in the apps when you're offline. Okay, and then when you add these, just make sure you click on the plus button, you fill in all the information for name, email address, graduation year, jersey, height, weight, if applicable, seasons that they're a part of the team, um, positions, and then permissions. Make sure you do permissions on what you want them to have access to. Because you can certainly say, I don't want them to see schedules and videos. Most people do allow their players to see all that, but you can certainly pick what you do and don't want them to see, and that takes away or gives them access to an entire area, not a specific video. Okay. And then if you're updating a roster, so let's say you've been with us and you're coming into the new year, then you can actually mass select everybody, okay, or just pick and choose. And then you can go to the actions here, and then you can update permissions, or you can add athletes to the current season. So a common workflow that everybody has to do every year is you go in, you add your new freshmen, your new players that come in, okay, and then you are going to want to update all of your returning players to this new season, because your seniors, they've graduated, they're no longer a part of the this 2018 season. So you can select everybody, and then I can do add athletes to season, and then I can check 2018 and then add them all there. And the reason that's a really important thing to do is when we tag players on all of these games and matches, we got to have an updated roster. So if we don't have an updated 2018 roster for you, then your players don't get tagged. And also, too, I mean, you don't have to delete players, right? So you don't have to delete players that aren't a part of your team. You just don't associate them with the particular season. So you could have a player in here from 4, 5, 6 years ago, right? But that's fine, right? If she or he is not associated with 2018, then great. They just won't show up when my guys are tagging players. Okay. So just get in the habit of not deleting players, but just keep adding your players and then associating them with the proper season that they're a part of it. Okay. And then right here, you can see, like, here's a great example of a player who actually hasn't activated her account. So I can resend the invite. I can change the email address. Maybe I put it in wrong. But right here, I can see that the invite was sent, but she hasn't activated it. So I could get on her and tell her, remind her that she hasn't activated it. I know she's not in. Or maybe the invitation got junked, and I could remind the players to take a look at their junk or their spam for the invitation. Okay. And then there is also active buttons. So if you ever want to like deactivate somebody, so maybe you have some seniors or people that were a few years out who you don't really want them logging in anymore, or maybe you had a player who transferred or you cut or just isn't a part of the team anymore. Again, you don't have to delete them, especially if they played. If they played and they were in the videos, they were in the statistics, all that kind of stuff, you don't have to delete them. You can just deactivate them, right? And then you don't have to get rid of them. just deactivate them, uncheck them, and they won't be able to log in and do anything. Okay, that's more common in our pro leagues where guys are getting traded and guys are getting moved around the different leagues or different teams. Not really as common in high school and college, obviously, except for players that graduate. And then your coaches here, make sure you get your coaches in. Okay, really important. Get all those assistant coaches in, or get your head coach in, or whoever that might be. And then guest logins. This is giving access to maybe pro scouts, college scouts, an SAD, people that are not a part of the team. Okay, and for you conference office people, this might be an area where you're creating a login for the officials. Okay, so you're creating one login for all of the referees and officials to get logged into. Um, Now we have had in some of our Division One leagues, like our Pac-12, they actually put in, they actually use the athletes. They put in every referee, every official in as an athlete, and then they put all their evaluators in as coaches because coaches have the ability to make edits and do things to videos and tagging and all that. Whereas athletes don't have any permissions to do anything other than watch video, interact with it, and then they can make their own highlights. Okay. But again, if you're a conference that wants to take this to the next level, then you could put all of your officials in as athletes, and then your evaluators as coaches. Because then what you could do is your evaluators could actually create specific targeted reviews for crews. Like if crew one had four specific officials, they could create a review and send that out to that crew really easily. And then you can engage them and have review conversations in there with those guys. So it makes it really easy to be able to really target and teach those. So that is something you could do as a conference office. You could take that approach just like a team does if you want to. But in general, most conferences will just they'll put their evaluators and head officials in as coaches, and then in the guests create an officials login that those guys can log into here. Okay, and guests don't really have, again, any permissions at all, just like players do. They can log in, access stuff, look at it, and they can also make some super generic highlights as well. So, and then the event that you're entering in non-conference teams. So if you're uploading non-conference games that aren't shared with everybody in your own stuff, this adds a list in your opponents tab here. And this is where so like here, Auburn is a non-conference opponent for Minnesota. So they've got Auburn in here, and they can actually add in their players. So if they want to put in players here, they can. So if this is something where you need to have players tagged for those, this is where you make sure they're all in here, they're all updated, they're accurate. But this shows that list of opponent teams that get added and created in here when you're uploading those outside of a schedule, right? Outside of a conference scenario. So if you're an individual team or uploading non-conference stuff as a user here. All right, so a couple other ones here. We have documents. Documents is kind of an older area that I don't know that it's used a whole heck of a lot, but you could upload PDFs, docs, those kind of things in there to easily be able to put stuff in there and share, to be able to download it and grab it. So if you have PDFs, you've got documents, you've got things that you want other coaches and players to get access to, they can grab them from that centralized document area there. Doesn't allow you to view anything. It's basically a super simple file sharing area. Putting something in there, and then I can go and I can grab it and download it. Now this live area right here. So some of you are aware of one of our newest features is our live video, our instant replay product, and our live product allows you to upload directly from the iPads into here. So if you're using that, for those of you that are, some of you on here are. So for example, here's like a picture. We were down at Stanford getting the Stanford's men's and women's teams set up. So this is their live kit where it's recording into the iPad here. So they're controlling the camera, controlling all the recording, zooming in and out with the iPad. And then from the iPad, then they can upload it directly into the system. And then that goes into here. So any of those upload sessions go into this list here. So you can see here are some of the live sessions that Minnesota had uploaded. They had a scrimmage, they had a different game, an SDSU game, their Utah game. So those live sessions were uploaded into here. And then this acts as a way for you to get video into a schedule for exchange, get into your private videos area. Maybe it's a practice video, but this is that kind of holding area that when those live sessions get uploaded, this is kind of where they go and where they live until you decide where I want to put it. How do I want to share it? Where do I want it to go? Okay. And then our settings is our area where you can go in and you can add and adjust and do a whole bunch of different things with the tagging. Because keep in mind that this is a full-fledged editor. This is a full-fledged editing system that if you wanted to replace using GameBreaker, okay, if you've been using GameBreaker, for many of you soccer coaches, for example, you don't have to use GameBreaker. You can use this system to go in and add additional instances here, additional things you might want to tag that you want to do on the timeline in your own special way, above and beyond maybe what we've done. Okay, but this is how and where you can define those tags and things you want to do. And then you can also do the same thing for stats. You can actually create additional statistics. You can create any kind of stats you want on top of what we've done. So if there's a specific stat you want to calculate, you can even do that in here, as well as creating a specific stat sheet. Maybe the stat sheets we have for you, maybe there's too much on there, maybe there's not enough, or maybe you want to customize a stat sheet that just shows a couple of metrics. You can actually create your own stat sheet. Maybe I wanted to create a stat sheet for soccer that just showed goals, corner kicks, and time in the attack third. I could create a stat sheet that just showed that. Okay, so you can build a whole bunch of different types of customizations here. A lot of guys too. A lot of coaches will create like Excel spreadsheets on different things. Where in fact you could actually do it in here. You could replicate and do your calculations in here, in your stats and your stat sheets. You could do a lot of that in here. That's just right in the system. And then those show up on each game, as well as in your stats area. You can pull those up in your stats and then show cumulatives across multiple games and across entire years. Okay. Okay, so the other areas here, again, we talked about the help bulb on the bottom right. Again, when you have help and you need to ask for help, use that. Search for a topic, or you can live chat with one of my guys, or you can call in. Now, the top right, this is your account area, and this is where you can go in and change your account information, like changing your username, your login, your password. If you're the administrator on the account, you'll see your invoices, okay, or any credits. So again, for those of you who maybe you've got an invoice, you haven't paid it, and maybe you haven't seen it, a lot of times those invoices go out and sometimes they get junked, they get spammed, you don't see them. You can go into here and you can click on your invoice, and then you can find it in there. You can pay with a credit card, or forward it off to your business people, whatever. But all of those things are in here. You can adjust your notifications on what kinds of emails and things you're getting notified on. And so we do have notifications for telling you, hey, if a game's been logged, boom, you can get emailed about it. Or if there was an error, or if a game was uploaded correctly, or if there was an error in coding, or if a review has been sent. So there's lots of different notifications that you can have either sent to you or not sent to you. And you can customize those right in here. Looks like there was a quick question here. Al said support staff are the best. Appreciate that. I'm sure Jason and Kent will love that. And then Doug said, who's responsible for putting our schedule? Okay, so Doug's question is regarding schedule exchange scenarios. So what Doug is asking is, who's responsible for putting the schedule in for the system? Um, and so there's a couple of ways that that gets managed. Okay. So number one, you might be in a conference where nobody really puts it in. The conference doesn't put it in, and you just upload them as you go. We have a lot of conferences here. That's just what they do. In fact, the Big Ten is one of those where they don't enter the schedule in ahead of time. So when they upload, they go to upload video here, and it takes them right into the wizard. So this jumps us right into the uploading for Exchange. So that's a good segue into it, Doug. So when I go upload, now it's going to ask me, what am I uploading? Am I uploading a private video, or am I uploading an Exchange schedule? So we'll say this is for Exchange. I can pick Exchange, click Next. And then it takes me into my Exchange schedule, and I'm going to pick, what am I uploading into? Okay. And so this is 2018, so I'm going to say 2018. So I'm going to click Upload, and now it's going to take me right to the form to start classifying, what is this? Is this a conference game, a non-conference game? Okay. So if it takes you into this part of it, then no events have been added in by the conference. Okay. So this is, again, an example of the Big Ten doesn't pre-enter these in, because a lot of our conferences don't really have issues with uploading, locking people in and out, because the conference actually has the ability, and I can take you guys in there and show you that too, but the conference office people, from their logins, they have an administrative panel where they can go in and they can check and uncheck people. They can take away access or give access, okay, whenever they want to. Okay. So they can easily go in at any time and do that for whatever reason they want to. Okay. And so here again, I'll click conference, and then I can start to pick and choose who's playing who. So let's say I'm the home team. I'm Minnesota. I'm going to pick Minnesota. I can start putting in my jersey color. We'll say I'm in white. I'm going to pick, we'll say I'm playing Illinois. We'll say that they're in orange. Okay. Link to stats here. Typically what we tell people to put in there is, we like you to put in a link to your lineup sheets. Okay, and this actually segues me into another feature that it's almost ready. We haven't pushed it out just yet, but for most of you, we're doing advanced tagging on player touches, and even in volleyball with who's touching the ball, all that kind of stuff. And having the actual lineup sheets is hugely important for us to help make sure that we're as accurate as possible. And so up to this point, we've been telling you guys to take a picture with your phone, or take the PDF or plop it into a document or whatever, and then you can upload that into Google Docs, or Google Drive, or iCloud or whatever, and then you can just copy a link into here. So then my guys have access to a link that they can see the lineup sheets. So that's what we've been telling everybody to do. So putting those into there. Okay. Now, what we've been adding is an actual lineup creator. So in soccer, this is kind of what it looks like. This is a dev version of a soccer lineup creator, where in this workflow now, this upload wizard, you're going to get to the lineup part, where then you're going to be able to add your players, and then you're going to be able to drag and drop, right? And then define what your lineups are for you, what the lineups are for the other players, okay? And then also define substitutions and all of that as they're happening throughout the game, okay? And the first one's going to be coming out for soccer here within the next probably couple days, and then we're going to get volleyballs out shortly after that. And then hockey will be following that one as well. So a really great visual way to be able to set the lineups that we're going to be able to use to really be able to tag players and all that stuff way more accurately, because that stuff it's invaluable for us to be able to have. So again, right now as it stands, copy and paste the link in here. So we tell guys, put a picture, put a document, put something into Google Drive, into Google Docs, whatever it is that you can get a link, right? We don't support uploading files in here, so you have to provide a link to the lineup sheet or to a picture or to something there. Again, via Google Drive, Google Docs, iCloud, whatever it is, a whole bunch of them. I'm sure you guys in your school have them. Everybody's probably got a Google account that you can use to do that. Most of you are familiar with that. And then we pick a game date, pick a time, and then we do have an audio option. Okay, so if you prefer to remove the audio, you can leave it checked. If you don't want the audio removed, you can uncheck it. Okay, and then we can click next here, and then this is part of that workflow that will change with the with this guy right here. Is you'll be able to then define who's playing, who the starters are, who's playing where, all that stuff here. And then this is where you can either add files, or if you were uploading from live, so if you were using one of our live kits here, this is where then I can say, yeah, I'm using live and I uploaded my live session. I can pick my live session video. Okay, so this is that step where instead of adding files from an SD card like I normally have done, I can grab it from that live session. Okay, but if I've just got an SD card or I've got files on my desktop, I can click upload video, click next, and then here, okay, I'm going to pick my angle. And for most of you, you're going to notice that there's multiple angles here. We do support up to 6 angles, actually, for most of our sports. And so for most of you uploading into Exchange schedules, you're just uploading a wide. It's the wide shot. That's the normal #1 angle here. And in soccer, we've got up to 4 angles right now that are typically being used. We've got the wide, the tight shot, and then we've got a goal 1 and a goal 2 angle on both goal lines. That for our live replay setups. But I'm just going to choose that wide angle, and then I can pick the files. So I can go to my desktop, I can go to my videos, wherever I've got that SD card. I can go to those, and then I can pick those that I want to upload. Okay, and then I can add those in, and you can select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 files, whatever you want. Okay, and then I can upload those in, and then it's going to take those and merge them together. So it doesn't matter if it's 1 file or 5 files. Okay, and we're going to do all the encoding on our end. So you don't have to worry about converting these before you get them to us. Okay. All right, now let's go to, let me go back in here. I think there was yeah, if it's Dropbox, that's fine. Whatever it is, whatever you can get a link to do that on. Get a link to do the put that in there. I'm gonna hide my screen just for 1 second here, guys, because I wanna pull up a view and show from the conference perspective kind of what happens here. So when they're actually entering these events in. So let's talk about when a conference does enter that in. So who is responsible for entering events in? So I'm going to go into one of our conference guys here. So just give me 1 second. We're going to go to one moment here. Just finding a good conference I'm going to use. We'll use this guy right here. I'm going to go into the SEC. Okay. All right, so my screen is back up here. So now I'm logged into a conference office account. So this is the SEC's account for soccer. So when they're in here, they actually have an admin panel. Okay, and so this is where they go in and then they can set all of the events. Okay, so in their admin panel here, you can see they've entered in all these events. So this is where, for the conferences who want to manage that, which is quite a few of your conferences do this. Okay, they go into here and The conference office then goes in and adds those. And this is where they're going to add them. They go into there, go into that admin, go to events, and they can start to add these events. Okay. And it's something that I'll tell conferences all the time. You don't have to do all of them right now. You could do, a few weeks at a time, and put them in. We don't currently allow a mass import right now. I know it's annoying. There's a lot of redundant data that you're entering in. But right now, yeah, you can just do a couple weeks at a time, or put a few interns on it, and they can fill them all in here. And then this is where you can then set all the who's playing who's home, who's responsible for the upload, and then the game dates, times, the deadline time. So this is where then that conference can set the deadline time, the deadline date, and the time of when it has to be uploaded. And then what's going to happen is once the team hits that deadline, so if it's midnight on a Saturday night for the game, then your access to the schedule is going to get locked out. And you're not going to be able to see anything in the schedule until you upload. Right? And so when a conference enters these in, you're actually not going to see anything in the schedule. So we actually hide all these events. So we purposely don't show you a huge empty schedule of events. So you're, filtering through a bunch of just empty games that don't exist. So we purposely hide everything until there's actually video there, until the events actually happened. Okay. And so that's why if you go in there now, some of you might go in there and you won't see. So if you're an SEC team, you won't see all these events that are in here for the whole season because they haven't happened yet. But then once that week has happened, then they'll start to show up and you'll start to see them. Now, from a team's perspective, when you actually log in and you go to the upload, you're going to see a list of events that you're responsible for. So it's going to prompt you right away, and it's going to show you a list of games that you have to upload. Okay, so they're already going to be pre-populated there. So when you click into that, in fact, here, let me hide my screen again, and I'll go in and I'll show you from a here. We'll go into 1 second here. I'm going to go into a Teams account, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like when there is a scheduled input, and then how different that actually looks when you're doing that. So 1 second here, let me pop in, and we will go to that. Okay, 1 moment. Okay, so I am back into, I'm in LSU's account here. So when I go into the schedule and I go to upload now, and I'm going to upload maybe let's do the conference only. I click upload. Now you see here it shows me a list of events. So this is that list of events that I'm responsible for uploading over the next season or a couple weeks here of what's entered in. So I'm going to go to that next game. So the game that I'm responsible for first is this Auburn LSU game on 9/20. And when it comes to that point in time after the game, I'm going to click upload and then do that same process, that same wizard of defining who's playing where, and then adding all the data, jersey colors, and then uploading my files. Maybe it's from an SD card or maybe it's from a live session if I'm using a live system, okay, one of our replay systems. So very simple, very easy way to be able to do that there. So again, for those of you who are in a conference doing that, then the conference are the guys. They're the ones who are doing that. They're the ones who are putting that schedule in, putting all those in. And if they're not, then it's just happening as you go. You're just adding events as the season goes on. And again, we don't really see that too much of an issue with teams taking advantage of that kind of thing. Because now with teams that use us, they're using the analytics. They're using all of the editing. So teams aren't deciding to not upload for 3 days because they're using it, right? They're uploading video to us, and in 2017 we averaged a 4-hour turnaround. So we're fast. And those of you who've already uploaded games, you've already seen how fast games have been getting done. So teams are getting stuff uploaded on a Friday night, and then being able to use that when they wake up the next morning. So they're not taking advantage of it. They're just getting stuff up. So that's why we don't typically see an issue with that. And not a lot of our conferences are pre-entering those in. But there still are a handful of them that do it just because that's the way they've always done it. That's what they prefer, to be able to automatically lock people out and keep them accountable, which is still a great way to do. So, okay. So in terms of the exchange, before I jump into some of the other like major features, I know we're coming up on 45, 50 minutes here. Before I jump into like getting into some of the analytical stuff, some of the filtering, and kind of covering some of that stuff here, do we have any questions on just exchange in general, managing schedules, general access, just everything of what I've covered up to this point? Does anybody have any questions on any of that stuff? Any Paul had a question. Pull out specific clips. Yeah, so Paul, I'll get to that. I'm going to get to here how you can pull clips out and make highlights and do those kind of things. Absolutely, we'll get to that here. But is there anything that people have in regards to exchange, uploading, that kind of thing? And when we talk about uploading, people always ask, how long does it take? And I can't tell you without knowing what your bandwidth is and how big of files you have. But rule of thumb is once the game's done, just get in there, get it going. Don't wait until the next morning. Don't wait until the next day. Just get it going right away. And if you're on the road, then use a phone as a hotspot. Everybody has LTE phones with really fast speeds nowadays. Use a phone as a hotspot, and then you can upload really fast that way. So, and turn sleep mode off. Absolutely. And make sure that you turn your sleep mode off on your computer. Sometimes people forget about that, and then when you start an upload process and then you walk away, your computer goes to sleep on you, then you got to restart the upload process. So you can go in, go to your, like if you're on a Mac here, I can go to my system preferences, and then I can go to my energy saver here, and I can then turn off, I can say, I don't ever want this to go to sleep. Right? Make sure I turn off going to sleep when I'm both maybe on battery or I'm on power, whatever the case. Okay, so that way then your hard drive doesn't go to sleep and then kills your upload. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let's jump back into some analysis, some more advanced features of looking at edits, pulling things out, making highlights, making reviews, those kind of things. So I'm gonna hide my screen here really quick. I'm gonna jump back into. I like using Minnesota's account here because I know they don't mind being right here in the area. So let me jump back into Steph's account. So just give me 1 second here, and we'll get going again. One of the things too that we're doing as I'm doing this and pulling this up here, a lot of you are maybe hearing about it, but we're placing our live replay kits all across the country in almost every one of our conferences. So for those of you who don't have any experience with it yet or haven't seen it, you'll get experience with it because somebody in your conference is going to have it, because we're coordinating with all of our conferences to make sure that everybody's seeing it, because instant replay is on everybody's mind right now. Everybody's talking about it. But the problem is that nobody knows, nobody has enough information, so it gets tabled. And so everybody thinks that it's either too expensive or they think that it's just not possible or there's too many resources that need to be used. And so we have a solution that we want to show everybody it can be done. Okay. All right. So let's jump into here. So I'm back into this account here, and let's talk about how we can start to look at games, start pull stuff out. So if I want to go into a game or a couple games, I'm going to go into the schedule here, and we're going to go into the 2017 Big Ten schedule. I can go into games, and I've got a list of games here. All right, and I can click into the search bar and I can say let's type Minnesota, and it filters just Minnesota matches here in this list, and I can check multiple games if I want to, and then I can actually watch multiple games. Okay, I can even download these if I want to, so I can download the videos, those files if I have to do something else with them, and I can email links. So if you ever had to send a video to a scout, to a non-conference opponent for a playoff scenario, or whatever the case was where it was legal, you can email links. Okay, and then on each game here, you see there's a watch button, an individual stats with an individual charts. So for all our sports, we have different charts for shots, for spray charts, distribution charts, those kind of things. Whether or not the game was logged, who was responsible for uploading it, and then when it was uploaded. So the date and the time that it was actually uploaded. And then if there was a problem on a game, you can actually click on the details here, and you can report a problem. So you can say there's a problem with this game, and let somebody know so that somebody can get on, whoever it was, to maybe get this fixed. Okay. But let's go back here. I'm just going to go into this Wisconsin game, and I'm going to click into watch. So now this takes me right into my watch interface. Now keep in mind, guys, that you are looking at the video through the GoToMeeting. So as I play this, there is going to be a lag, and that's just because of the GoToMeeting. The refresh rate's not in real time, and so when you guys go into your computers and look at it, it should look perfectly fine. But just keep in mind, you're looking through the GoToMeeting into mine, so it looks choppy right now. We've got our playback controls, play, pause, slow motion, forward 5, back 5. If there's multiple angles, I can toggle between these multiple angles here. Okay, and then you can go into full screen here. All right. I can also, there's a settings button here where you can adjust volume, you can adjust video definition, and then you can also turn controls on and off. Okay, you can also adjust telestrations too when we get into the highlights and reviews, where you can adjust how telestrations get shown there as well. There are keyboard shortcuts here. So the bottom row key is your V key, is your play pause, and then your B, N, and M key, and then your Z key, and then your Shift key will change the angle. So I could use my keyboard shortcuts entirely to control this game. You can hold down the B key for slow motion here, go back 5 seconds, okay, and I don't have to use my mouse at all. Now this star button, this is a quick highlight creator. So sometimes if you're seeing something in really quick that you want to clip out, this was primarily designed for players. When players want to like clip something out for highlight purposes, you can use the star to do it. But even as a coach or as an evaluator, you could click on the star, and then you can use this timeline here, and then you can actually create the instance, the size of the instance that you want. Okay, and you can see here that there's the time bar is showing here, right? So then you can designate how big of an instance you want, and then I can click clip here. Now this is going to clip this out, and it's going to add it in. We'll do test 2, and it's going to add that clip into my whatever highlight I want to make it. So we'll put it into the test 8 there. So that's a simple way of clipping anything I want, right? Any duration from a full match that I'm watching without pulling up any filters. And again, this was primarily targeted for like players, or if you're pulling up just raw video, something that maybe wasn't tagged at all, it's an easy, quick clipper that you can use to do that. Okay. Now, below here is our filter. So this is the one of the primary areas that most of you guys get really familiar with. You guys start to use. So when you guys upload these games, we break everything down, right? Sports specific, whether it's soccer, volleyball, hockey, football, basketball, all that. And we're breaking down a ton of criteria, either based on what you're paying for, based on what your conference is doing. So there's a few different levels on how we do that, but mostly all these games are broken down with basic team tactical data, team specific, possession, who has it, what's happening, shots, goals, attacks, and then for many of these, then we're tagging a player on that action, a player on that shot, a player on that touch. Um, and then again, it just depends on what sport, right, and what data you're actually going to see. But in terms of pulling those up, it's all the same. We have a filter here. And when you first go into it, it shows you our simple filter. And this is a really simple one-click way to be able to pull up something. So in soccer here, I can go to simple and go to goals. And then click on goals, Minnesota. And it looks like Minnesota didn't have any goals in this game. But if I click on Wisconsin, here we go. I can pull up these goals by Wisconsin. And then it's going to toggle through these, and then I can watch these 2 goals by Wisconsin. And if I let it play, it'll just keep going through and then playing these. Okay. And again, I can go back and I can change it to something else. I can go to shots by, Minnesota. And it just pulls up all of Minnesota's shots. Okay. And again, the same goes for any other sport, whether it was volleyball. I could pull up attacks by Julie. I could pull up, face-offs by Johnny. All sorts of different things there. And this is just a simple, super easy way to do it, by team or by player. I could pull up shots, by Sydney here. Right, and this pulls up all of Sydney's shots if she had any. Okay. Now the advanced filter is what most people use. This is where you can pick and choose what you want to look at in any way. And especially if you have more advanced data, like in soccer with player touches, you can look at anything you want in any combination. So here I could say I want to look at, a Minnesota possession in the final third. So I'm choosing multiple tags, and then this shows me an overlap of this is a Minnesota possession in the final third. And then I can keep watching, keep going back, and looking at all these different results. And the same goes for volleyball. I can pull up, a rotation situation. I can pull up every time you guys were in a row one, a serve row one, if you want to. Or I can pull up every time you were in a serve row one and Julie had an attack. You can get as granular as you want to get it. I can go to, touches here and say I want to pull up all of Minnesota's maybe forward passes. All right, so I can choose Minnesota and choose forward passes here. And maybe that were complete. All right, so I could do that too. I could choose complete, click apply. So now this shows me all, looks like there was a lot. I can choose all of these forward passes that were completed by Minnesota. Or I could get even more specific, right? And I could choose by player. I could pick, maybe we'll choose Maddie. These are all of Maddie's. She didn't have any, right? But I could do that by maybe we'll try Molly and see if Molly has any. Here we go. So here's Molly's forward completed passes. Okay, so you can get as specific and granular as you want. And again, in volleyball, you could do that by rotation, by player. A player's attacks, digs, by a serve or receive rotation. Same thing in hockey for a player's shots in a particular power play. In basketball, player taking shots in a particular type of set play or anything, right? I can keep picking multiple different things that I want to see. Okay, if it's for an evaluator situation, I can go to files here and I can pull up things based on by team, cards, and advantages. Okay, but a whole different way of pulling things up you want to see. And what's cool is you can pull these up by multiple games as well. So I could have selected 2, 3, 4, 5 games, and then pulled up a goal or maybe a corner kick filter across those 6 games. Or I could pull up 6 volleyball matches, and I can pull up serve receive situations across 6 games for maybe their stud hitter that they have. Okay. Now, once I've done that, I've got checkboxes next to these plays. So as I see things that I like, all right, I can start to check plays that I want, and then I can make highlights and make reviews. So this is now the workflow of taking plays and making film sessions or targeting players to teach them something. Okay, so rather than expecting the player's going to go in, watch a whole game, just filter for stuff and know what they're going to do, which most of these young kids don't. Okay, most kids don't really truly know how to watch film, anyways. And then when they get to be older, junior, seniors, maybe they understand how to watch film. But here now, I'm selecting plays. I can create a highlight and then choose the angles I want. Click next, and I can then maybe add plays into an existing highlight that I have, or maybe I want to create a brand new one. Here, we'll go ahead and we'll add these back into test 8 here. So now I'm just adding plays. It's very similar to when you create a music playlist when you're working out on your iPhone, right? You put a bunch of songs together that you only want to hear when you're working out for that hour. Same thing. You're pulling a bunch of plays. You're copying them into a playlist that you want to use in a session later today or the next morning. All right. Now, common question that we get is, how can I adjust the time? So you'll notice that on a lot of these plays, there's durations that are preset on many events. If I'm looking at maybe like goals, goals is a really good example where maybe there's some buildup that happened to a goal, right, that I want to see. I can actually click in and I can adjust that lead time. So now it gives me a 19-second clip. Now, granted, this was a goal off of a SEPI, so that's not really as relevant. But here we go. Here was some kind of a transition that had happened. Maybe I want to see more that led up to this. Now this shows me more of maybe what happened. So it looks like there was a goal kick here, and then it happened off of a transition. Okay, and we can watch that. I can also do down here, I can do a global lead and lag time. So if I want to change all of them, I can do it globally. I want to do all of them an additional 10 seconds, click apply. So maybe I had a list of like 30 plays. I could do all of them. So now they're all 20-second clips instead of just 10 seconds. Okay. So a couple of really simple, easy ways to be able to manipulate those durations there. And then I can add them into my highlights. Okay. Now, once you've added them into a highlight, you can't change it in your highlight. Right? You can't change the duration in the highlight, because what this does is it actually takes that play, it copies it out of it, and makes its own physical play in your highlight. And then that can actually be downloaded out of the system and done something with. So if you don't like the duration, you have to go back and you'll have to change your duration or your lead or your lag time to something maybe more desirable, if you didn't like it, okay, when you did it. Okay. Looks like there was if you have a question, just type a question into the question that you don't have to do the hand raise thing there. So just type in a question. So Jason asked, well, what's the difference between lead and lag? So the lead time, Jason, means the amount of time at the beginning of the play. So that's the lead time up to the play. The lag time is the amount of time after the play. And so if this is a 20-second play, right, and I want to add lead time to this, I might say, I want to add 5 seconds. I want to add 5 more seconds of lead time to this. Because again, maybe there's something that led up to it. Now, for you as a volleyball coach, Jason, um, things are happening so quick and so fast that having a ton of additional lead time isn't really as relevant as, say, maybe a soccer coach here who's looking at a goal. So for you, most of the clips that you're seeing in volleyball are pretty good. They're pretty set where you're seeing a good 5 6 seconds around a hit that gives you what you need. Um, and in the event that you needed to see more, you could just pull up the entire rally instead of drilling down into an individual attack and then see more around it. But that's lead and lag time. It's just the amount of time that led up to a play and the amount of time, the lag time that's after the play. So then, okay, so if I want to see a spike and there's a duration of 10 seconds, does that mean there's 5 seconds before? Yeah, so um, if the clip, so if you're looking at a spike and it's a 10-second clip, then that 10 seconds is it's encompassing, that spike, right, around it. And so if you say that you want to have, so does that mean there is 5 seconds before and 5 seconds after? It's basically, yeah, there's we've done our best to try to tag it in a way that then has 5 seconds leading up to it and then 5 seconds after that event. So it's kind of in the middle. Not always the case, but that's generally kind of how we designed it. And so if you need more of a buffer, more lead time, you can easily adjust it. Um, what typically happens though is in our filter, we actually add more time to it. So what we find is that if a clip is less than a certain amount of time, if a clip is less than 4 seconds or whatever, a lot of times it's unusable because it's so quick. So we actually tend to add time to it anyways. And so most clips that you see in a filter when you pull it up are usually never less than 10 seconds. And so a lot of times, even if you tagged a 6 second type clip, we add a little bit to it, a little bit of buffer around it because clips that are less than 10 seconds sometimes are unusable just because they're so quick. It's hard to teach off of a 3 second clip. Even though there's a 3 second moment inside of that you want to use, it's way easier to use a 10 second clip that has that 3 second moment inside of it than just use a 3 second clip. So, all right. So Joseph had a question about, can you analyze video from services that record games at hockey rinks? Yeah. So you can. So anything you guys upload, really. So if you're getting the video from a different source, then as long as you're getting that video in a file format that you can upload to us, absolutely, we can totally break it down. We can break down almost anything. Or if you want, Joseph, you can get one of our live kits here, and then you can actually use video on the bench. And so, for example, in hockey, I assume you're a hockey coach, Joseph. As a hockey coach here, you could use our live kit like this here, where you can have iPads on the bench. So you could be using an iPad on the bench to pull up plays, to pull up shifts, to use video as the game is actually happening, or maybe to use the iPad in between periods. So now you're able to use that video during the game like you've never been able to before. And as a hockey coach, it's legal for you to use it. It's not legal in the NCAA yet. And for some of you, so for you volleyball coaches and hockey coaches, NCAA level, you're not allowed to yet. Okay. But for soccer coaches at the NCAA level, you're allowed to. You can use it. You can use it just like you're seeing here at Stanford, or we've got one at the Gophers have one here that they use. They use an iPad down on the bench here as well. And at the high school level, it's legal. Pretty much almost every sport in high school, can use it. So Dave had a question: can you change the lead time for different situations? Yeah. So that's kind of what I was showing there, Dave. Is that any filter you pull up, you can click in, and then you can adjust that lead and lag time, that start and end time, whether it's individually by clicking in, or it's if you pull up all the shots, and then you want to globally change all of these here. So now they all have an additional lead time of 10 seconds. So you can do that for any filter result that you pull up, anything at all. Okay. So, so again, now creating a highlight, creating a review, that's that workflow of manipulating the video. There is also another little trick here that you could use using the inner and outer search. And basically what this means, some of you it's relevant, some of you it's not. Where it's relevant is like in volleyball. Let's say in volleyball you wanted to pull up, an entire rally that had a specific, result, or maybe you wanted to pull up an entire rally that had a specific type of attack, or specific type of touch by a player. You could use the outer search to pull up the entire rallies of every time Julie had a specific type of an attack. Because right now, the way that these filters work is they work off of an inner search concept, meaning that the intersection of any tags pulls up the minimum clip, right? So it's going to pull up the minimum result, right? That minimum intersection, right? So it would be an individual attack, an individual touch, an individual shot, right? Rather than the entire possession that contained it, the entire rally that contained it. And so the outer search option would be a way that if I wanted to see the entire rally or the entire possession or the entire event that encompassed a smaller set of events, you can use this outer inner to adjust that. But by default, it's always set on the inner because that's what lets you get really granular. That's what lets you get really specific to individual events, individual turnovers, individual touches, individual attacks, individual shots. It's probably more common in basketball where a basketball coach might say, I want to see every time we had, a set play that resulted in a made shot, and I want to see the entire possession, not just the individual shot. Because if I left it on inner and I did a search for set play with a made shot, it's going to show me just those shots that I made. If I change it to outer, now it shows me all of those possessions we had that resulted in a made shot. So it's a different way to tweak it, different way to look at it. All right, so let's go into our highlights and reviews now. So I've added a bunch of plays in the highlights here. The top left, my hamburger menu shows me all of my different apps here. And so I can switch over into the highlights here. And this shows me my highlights that I made. And I can click into watch for my test date highlight that we made here. And I've got a bunch of clips here that we added. Okay. I can click into the text here and I can change the description. I can change what shows here on the overlay, okay, for this while it plays. I can also go to edit. I can change the order if I don't like the order of those plays. But primarily, I can actually pause it, click on my pen, and I can use my telestrator here. And my telestrator is what gives me all of my magical tools to be able to make these plays way more valuable. So I've got freehand drawing. I can draw, and I've also got, I can do different colors here. This is a new feature that we did not have last year that now we do. I can do circles and squares, and I can also change whether it has a fill or not. Okay. And I can change if it's dotted or dashed. Okay. I can do circles also. And then I can do arrows. And again, I can change whether it's dotted, dashed, solid. And I can change the color. And what's cool about the arrows is I can do, all I'm doing is I'm clicking once to set the anchor point. And then once I'm done, I can double click. That ends it. And then I can do my text. I can click anywhere. And I can type bullet points if I can spell correctly. I can move that around. I can also change the size. I can change the color. And one thing too is there's a little green G here. If I grab that, I can also change the orientation, so I can spin it. All right. And then when I'm done, I can click the check mark to save it. It will automatically save. There's an auto save feature here that automatically saves it periodically. But I can also click that to save it. So now, every time I get to this marker in this clip, it's going to show all these crazy illustrations that I added here. And I can add as many different marks on this clip as I want to. Because maybe there's a handful of different situations that show something that either led up to a play or went past the play that I want to be able to see here. Okay. And then here in your settings, I can actually change the telestration mode. So I can say, I want it to pause for 5 seconds and then play, or pause for 10 seconds and play. I want to turn it off. But right now it's on, meaning it's going to get to a telestration and it's going to pause. And it's not going to continue until I decide to press play. Now I can take plays and I can make a review. And a review, again, we talked earlier, is the ability to target players. And it's a really valuable feature that if you haven't started to use it, I encourage you to take a look at it. But we can give it a name. We'll just call this review. Back for week 1, I can put in some details, look here, or put in questions, whatever it is I want to engage them with, and I give it an expiration. And the expiration means that it's only going to exist for 2 weeks and then it's going to go away. Okay, because we see that coaches will use these, they'll create a bunch of reviews and then they keep making a bunch of new reviews every other week. And so this is a way to purge out old reviews, right? It's to get rid of old assignments that just don't need to be there anymore. And so we click next, and then we can pick players, people we want to share this with. I'll just pick myself and then Chad. And so now it sends a review, sends an email to those players, to those people, those coaches. And what it looks like then when we go into it is very similar to highlights. It shows you what's the subject that you sent it, who's in the review, the date, when it's going to expire, and I can click in to view it, and it's going to show me the review here. Okay, I've got a text thread here that it's threaded, so you can have a threaded conversation inside of this here. So you can have a back and forth dialogue with the players and with the coaches. Every time somebody responds to it, they'll all get a message saying that so-and-so responded with this. And then you can always go back and add more illustrations and more notes to this to edit it as well. And then once you've created it and you've sent it out, there's a report here that shows you how much your players have actually looked at it. So you can see who saw it, how much they've seen it, when they saw it, how much time they've spent, comments made, average session time. So it gives you a great idea of what your players are actually looking at and how much they've learned. Okay. So again, I would encourage you to get in there, start playing with reviews, play with that, and use that, and then you can target your players and be more specific with them. Okay. Now I've covered a lot of stuff in this hour and change here. I want to end this on. I want to talk about our live stuff again really quickly here, and then take any final questions we have. So again, for those of you that don't know about it, we've got our live video piece here, which is our we support up to 6 cameras, and with instant replay becoming a topic of conversation for everybody, it's information that it's misinformation that people don't have. They don't know what costs look like, what resources look like, equipment, all that kind of stuff. And and so we've been talking with all the conferences, all our people, to make sure they understand what this looks like, what it entails, so that way then you guys can start implementing instant replay. And the value of what our instant replay is a couple things. It actually gives you guys a couple values, not just instant replay. So you guys can use this for obviously challenge replay and instant replay. And we support up to 6 cameras, and it's a wireless system that can also be wired, and it's portable. So teams could share it. And so an AD could spend money on one kit that gets used by a fall team, soccer team maybe, or a volleyball team, and then the basketball team uses it in the wintertime, and then maybe the baseball team uses it in the springtime. Okay, so it's a kit that's portable. It can be placed wherever, right? And then set up. It's easy to set up and use by an assistant coach. You don't have to have a replay tech on site to use it. Okay. Although, for those of the higher levels that want a replay tech, we do have a level for that. So if the conference requires somebody from us to be on site to help set it up and to help run it, we can do that. But for majority of you don't want to spend the money on that. So it's simple enough that you can set it up yourself and have this for challenge replay. Again, up to 6 cameras. Most setups we're seeing are 4 cameras at most. But right now, we're getting everybody set up with 1 and 2 camera setups just to start to get familiar with it, to see it. And then it gives you video on the bench. So for those of you where it's legal, you've got iPads on the bench that you can pull up plays, you can tag things, and use that as the game is happening. And for soccer coaches, it's legal for you at the NCAA level. So you can use that during the game at halftime for set pieces, those kind of things. Volleyball coaches, it's not legal for you just yet, but I'm sure that will change. And then for most of you high school coaches, hockey coaches, you can use it on the bench. Obviously, high school football can use it on the bench. Just a whole bunch of use cases. So it can be used for both. It can be used for both instant replay, challenge replay, and for coach replay where it's legal. Or maybe you're using it in between periods. So maybe you're not able to use it on the bench, but you have time in between periods or time at halftime. Then you've got the iPad, you can pull it up, look at things really quickly, and make adjustments. Okay. And then finally, it helps solve broadcast streaming. So for a lot of you that really need to improve your broadcast streaming, really need to add more cameras, multiple cameras, and just combine workflows into one, this will allow you to do that. So you don't have to have 2 separate camera crews or 2 separate workflows or 2 different situations. You could be getting coach replay, you could be getting your video analysis, you could be getting instant replay, and you could be streaming this all up to Stretch Internet, to Sidearm, to Facebook, to YouTube, to whatever it is, and then have a live feed there, some live feeds with some possible multiple angles to do some streaming as well. So, and that again is something that we're talking to all the conferences about. We're talking to commissioners, we're talking to SIDs, we're talking to ADs, everybody, just letting them know that we have these systems. You can in fact go to if you go to our store, you can go to our store.vidswap.com and you can start to take a peek at some of our kits that we have for sale, single angle kits here. So most of our kits typically run from like 2,500 and then all the way up to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, depending upon the number of cameras, number of teams involved, all those kind of things. So you can take a look at those here. But I would encourage you to get in touch with us about that. Talk to your ADs about it. Like right now, I'm shipping off a new kit down to San Angelo that's going to be used for both. It's a volleyball basketball combo kit. So it's our basketball volleyball combo kit here that the volleyball team can use it in the fall, and then the basketball, both boys and both men's and women's basketball teams can use it in the wintertime for their replay. And it's a 4 camera setup that allows them to be able to mount up on the net. So like here, I'll show you. So I took some pictures of it the other night here. So here's like an example of what the camera looks like on the net, and then there's 2 or 3 other cameras up around that are focused down on baselines and around the court there that they're using um, for a volleyball scenario. So, but contact us, talk to your ADs, talk to people. Let us know. Chances are you're going to come across it in your conference because every one of our conferences is going to have it. Somebody's going to have it so that you guys can start to see it, start to become familiar with it. If you're interested, contact me, let me know, and then we can get you guys rolling on it. But it's affordable. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's super easy to set up, and it accomplishes all those workflows for you guys to be able to do. So, and if you're a soccer coach and you're interested in our advanced stuff, let us know too. We're tagging player touches, passing on almost all that stuff this year. So if you guys want access to that, let us know. Let us know if you want to upgrade to that so you can get a prorated invoice for that as well. But other than that, guys, if there's not any final questions, we're going to go ahead and we're going to call this day here. And we're going to do this tomorrow and every day until Friday. I'm going to post this into the help area so you guys can go back and rewatch it. And you can watch any of the next day's sessions as well. So any final questions, any final thoughts, anything at all, speak now. Forever hold your peace. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Again, let us know if there's anything else we can do. About check in the rest of the week. Check in with the live video, the instant replay, advanced breakdowns, player touches, all that kind of stuff. Let us know, guys. I appreciate it. And good luck.